It started like any other day. I'd been working from home in my usual routine. Coffee, emails, the usual distractions. The usual hum of the apartment, the usual quiet as I sat at my desk, facing the window, watching the world go by, but never quite feeling like I was part of it. I've always been a creature of habit. Nothing strange about that, right? So when my phone rang that afternoon, it wasn't anything out of the ordinary. I didn't recognize the number, but that wasn't surprising either. A lot of people call from numbers that aren't saved in your contacts these days. I let it go to voicemail, something I do 99% of the time. When I checked the voicemail a few minutes later, I wasn't expecting much. Maybe a call from a doctor's office I'd forgotten about, or a spam message from an insurance company. But what I heard instead made my blood freeze. There was no greeting, no introduction, just a series of clicks, static, and then the voice. Soft at first, barely more than a whisper. "He's coming for you." I didn't know what to think. Was it a wrong number? A prank? I listened to it again, but that was all. The message didn't make sense. It wasn't even threatening, not really. It was just a statement. A cold, unsettling statement. "He's coming for you." I checked the number that had called. Nothing. It was from an unlisted area code. No name, no details. Just a random number. I even Googled it, ran it through a few reverse phone lookup websites. Nothing came up. It didn't make sense, but I shrugged it off. I was tired. I'd been working too much. Maybe it was just some weird glitch or some prank. Nothing to worry about. But the next day, the calls kept coming. The first one came at 9:15 a.m., another unknown number. I picked up this time, thinking it might be something important. I said, "Hello?" The phone was silent for a moment. Then, in that same soft, distant voice, the words came again. "He's coming for you." My heart skipped a beat. I hung up. I thought about blocking the number, but the call had ended so quickly, and the voice had been so calm. It wasn't like any prank call I'd heard before. It felt almost rehearsed, like someone had planned it. I tried to shake off the feeling that crept into my mind. I convinced myself it was just a coincidence. Maybe the same person had gotten my number from somewhere, or maybe it was some sort of weird telemarketing scam. I went about my day, trying to push the thought away. But then, that night, I got the voicemail again. "He's coming for you." The same message, same tone, the same sense of inevitability in the voice. But this time, something was different. After the words ended, there was a long pause, long enough that I thought the voicemail was over. But then I heard something else, a movement, a sound I couldn't quite place. It wasn't like static. It wasn't like anything I had ever heard before. It was breathing, a soft, uneven inhale. I jumped back from the phone. My mind raced. I checked the voicemail again, but the breath was gone. I rewound it, played it again, and it was just the voice, repeating the same message. "He's coming for you." But I couldn't stop thinking about that breath. The next day I got another call. This time I didn't pick up. I let it go to voicemail, and when I listened to it later, my stomach sank. This time, it wasn't just a single message. It was longer. "He's coming for you. He's been watching you. He knows where you are. He knows where you live. He's close." The words were almost too clear now, too precise, too personal. I tried to rationalize it. I thought about the possibility that someone had gotten my number through a friend, or that it was some kind of targeted marketing, or maybe even a scam involving threats. But then, things started to get strange. I went about my day, trying to ignore the calls, but it was impossible. They were constant. The voice kept coming, over and over again. The words stayed the same, but the voice, it changed. It became more intense, more urgent. It wasn't a distant whisper anymore. Now it was almost like it was in the room with me. And that's when I started noticing other things. The photos on my phone. I'm sure it's nothing, but they started to change. It wasn't all at once. No, that would have been too obvious. It was subtle at first, the kind of thing you'd overlook. But as I scrolled through my gallery, I saw something that didn't make sense. One of my photos from a family dinner, taken months ago, had something new in it. A dark shape in the background. A figure, standing just out of sight. It wasn't clear, not at first. But as I zoomed in, I could make out what it was. A man, tall, thin, wearing a green hoodie. His face was blurred out like he was never supposed to be in the picture, but there he was. The next day, I found another photo. This one was from a day trip to the beach. I hadn't noticed anything at first, but when I looked closer, I saw the same figure standing in the distance, by the water's edge. The hoodie, the posture, the shape. It was him. And the more I looked through my photos, the more I found him. In the background of some, in the edges of others, always just outside of focus, but always there. And then it hit me. He was in my apartment. I woke up that morning, late, as I always do. The sun was just beginning to peek through the curtains. But when I opened my eyes, I felt a strange, heavy feeling in the air. Like I wasn't alone. Like someone else was there. I checked my phone right away. Another voicemail. "He's in your apartment. He's been here all along." I bolted up from the bed, my heart racing. I looked around the room. Nothing. Just the empty silence of my apartment. I grabbed my phone and checked the message again. "He's sitting in your chair. He's waiting for you." The chair. The armchair by the window. I hadn't noticed anything strange when I woke up, but as I turned my head toward it, I saw it. The chair was disturbed. The cushion was slightly indented, like someone had been sitting there. I walked over, heart pounding. The chair was empty. I breathed a sigh of relief. But the moment I turned back to the bed, I saw something else. A figure. A shape. Standing in the doorway, right where the hallway met the bedroom. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. My entire body locked up, like it was frozen in place. My eyes were wide, but I couldn't tear them away from the shape standing in the doorframe. The figure in the green hoodie, standing motionless, watching me. And then I heard the voice again. It was a whisper now, but I could feel it right in my ear. "You should have listened to the calls. Now it's too late." Before I could move, the figure stepped forward, but it wasn't like any person I've ever seen. It was more like something had taken on the form of a person. Its movements were too quick, too smooth, like a machine, too controlled. I screamed, backing away, and for a moment, I thought I could escape. But then I looked down at my phone again. The call log was there. It showed the same number, the same unlisted number. But this time there was a new message. It wasn't the usual voice. It wasn't the whisper. It was me, my own voice. And all it said was, "I'm coming for you." A few years ago, I rented a small house on the outskirts of town. It was an old place, creaky floors, peeling paint, but affordable. It seemed perfect for someone like me, quiet and away from the chaos of the city. One night, about 2 weeks after I moved in, I woke up to a faint whispering. At first, I thought it was my imagination, or maybe the wind rustling through the old windows. But as I sat up and listened, I realized it was coming from the living room. I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, and crept down the hallway. The whispering grew louder as I got closer to the living room window. My heart raced as I peeked around the corner. There was no one there, but the window, it was fogged up, as if someone had been breathing on it. Written in the condensation were the words, "Let me in." I froze. The whispering stopped, and the silence was deafening. I checked the locks on the door and windows. They were secure. Trying to shake it off as some kind of prank, I cleaned the glass and went back to bed. The next night, it happened again. The same whispering, the same words on the window. Let me in. This time I didn't hesitate. I called the police. They arrived quickly and searched the area but found nothing. The officer assured me it was probably just a neighborhood kid messing around and left. But it wasn't a kid. Over the next few nights, the whispers turned into faint tapping on the window, and the words would change. I'm here. Look outside. Don't ignore me. I was terrified, but I refused to look out that window. I covered it with a heavy curtain, hoping that would stop whatever was happening. It didn't. On the final night, I woke to a loud, rhythmic banging on the window. The whole house seemed to vibrate with each knock. I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed a kitchen knife and yanked the curtain back, ready to confront whoever or whatever was out there. There was no one, just the dark woods behind the house and my pale, terrified reflection in the glass. But then, my reflection smiled. I wasn't smiling. I moved out the next day. I don't know who or what was at that window, but I still hear faint whispers sometimes, even in my new place.